What's going on?
Lovely.
Man's never been in marquee when it's shut down, eh? Trust me, daddy.
Jets.
Jeez, boys.
Boys, we are 3 months into the year, and it has already been a crazy one in the world of martial arts, of MMA, and especially in the UFC. In addition to that, this is the year that we brought you Strictly Fighters. So I think we kick this episode off by telling everyone, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Legends League. Are we ready for the draw?
Let's.
I'm about to click the button.
Let's do
Let's.
it. Spin the wheel. Spin the wheel.
Did you guys do this last week, by the way?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we very much did.
Go watch the episode, Shaun.
Sorry, guys. I've been out of commission the last few days. It's been a bit difficult.
We forgive you.
There we
3,
go.
2, 1.
Move that bus. All right.
Our celebrity. Oh no, sorry. Excuse me. Please pardon me. Our Legends League matchup for this week is none other than Manny Pacquiao versus Ip Man.
Oh.
So we have
What rules?
So first, the first scenario is as is.
Okay.
Exactly as both martial artists are. So we have an eight division boxing world champion versus the man who is highly believed to have trained Bruce Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Ip Man or IP Man?
Ip Man. IP Man is the guy that comes and fixes your internet. No, it's Ip Man.
I've believed it to be IP Man this whole time. No one's
That's
ever
fine.
corrected me.
You can call him whatever you want.
Yeah.
IP
You
Man.
call him whatever you want. He's still going to fuck you up.
He's still gonna fuck you up.
Okay, as is. Controversial. I'd take Ip Man.
Yeah, I watched that video the other day when everyone was complaining about my top 5 movie list. I had to go see why they were yelling at me about Ip Man. So,
I'm sorry. Before we carry on, I just have to throw in there how I am a massive fan of the way that you caved and put Enter the Dragon as number 1.
I know you're.
I thoroughly enjoyed that.
I know you're a massive fan, but when the votes were in, the fan base fully backed me on the fact that Fight Club is number 1.
Hey,
but
that was
let's move
Instagram
on.
only. We don't have a consolidated. We haven't consolidated those votes.
All right. So
Craig,
yeah,
Ip Man or Manny Pacquiao?
I'm gonna go with Shaun on that one. Ip Man.
So you guys are saying that a kung fu master would beat a world champion boxer?
Only because of the addition of all the other factors. I mean, Manny isn't trained in kicking, defending kicks, defending any sort of takedowns, anything that kung fu would be able to implement. Kung fu, I mean, for all the debate around its effectiveness, they do still train pretty extensive moves within their martial art. You know what I mean? They do kicks and pretty hectic ones. I'd take Ip Man, honestly.
If it's no holds barred, I would definitely say Ip Man.
I mean, the other scenario is pound for pound. I don't know how much Ip Man weighed. I don't know if anyone ever did, but from the photos that I've seen and the way he's portrayed in martial arts culture, I mean, I wouldn't think that he was much lighter or heavier than Manny. So
yeah,
is it a similar scenario? You would still go with Ip Man?
Yeah, Manny's not very heavy. He's quite a small guy.
Yeah,
Manny's a world boxing champion in 8 different weight divisions. So
yeah, I mean,
he can get heavy, he can get light. Yeah, for out of loyalty to kung fu, since I've studied the art, and out of loyalty to Bruce Lee and his teacher, I'm going to side with you guys on that one.
Okay,
there we go. Ip Man. Okay, whatever, guys, comments. Let us know what you guys think.
Yeah,
Ip Man,
for sure.
Or Manny.
Interestingly enough, we had some questions around the merits of the martial arts boxing versus Muay Thai. A little bit different than Ip Man as a kung fu master and Manny as a world champion boxer. But if we had to look at these two arts, Shaun, how would you break this down if somebody asked you which martial art is better, boxing or Muay Thai?
Better for what? Self-defense? Better for what do
So
you
let's
think?
context is king. You're 100% correct. So let's break it down into categories. Which martial art would you say is better as a base for MMA, for mixed martial arts? And which martial art would you say is better as a comprehensive system of effective self-defense? And then thirdly, let's take it a step further and say, if a boxer had to face a Muay Thai fighter, who would win?
Okay. All right. So if we took which would be the best base for MMA, we got to look at the one of the key sort of differences between boxing and MMA is the way that they defend themselves. Muay Thai, if you watch a Muay Thai fight, the guys are normally standing in front of each other, kicking each other, and elbowing each other until one of them is either on the ground or that someone's managed to clinch and take down. It's more a case of I'm harder than you. I'm going to outlast you. That's why I'm going to win. Whereas boxing is more technical. It's the precision. It's the Ferrari of martial arts. We consider boxing a martial art. It's because it's the head movements. It's the footwork. It's the evasive defensive type fighting technique. So in all honesty, it's okay. To be completely frank, Muay Thai is going to be the best basis for MMA, only because you've got the inclusion of kicks, elbows, knees, and that's going to, if you've trained that, it's easy to sort of carry that over into MMA, and it's a few less things you need to learn doing that transition. A boxer moving into MMA, you've obviously got to add these things to your trade and try and master them as well. So obviously MMA, definitely for MMA, definitely Muay Thai is going to be better. In terms of a self-defense art, which is better, in all honesty, both are pretty good. And I'll tell you why. Boxing, because of its distance management. Muay Thai, because it's all-round effectiveness as a striking art, because you're using every single limb. You're able to keep people at distance with your teep kicks. So that's that front leg kick. They come close, you've got other options. You've got elbows when they get really close. You've got the clinch, which you can chuck them to the floor and run away if you really have to. So it's a really comprehensive martial art if you do get into a fight situation, in a self-defense situation. Boxing, on the other hand, has got distance control, very effective distance control. And all fights start on the feet. And if you, as a boxer, are going up against someone else who's relatively untrained, it's not going to be too difficult for you to dismantle someone if you're just moving around really well, and you can really see them telegraphing their punches. You can move out of their way and apply what you need to as a martial artist to sort of defend yourself. So pretty much both of them are really good for self-defense, and for two very different reasons. I think that's maybe what I would say is putting them on par. One is the evasive technique that boxing offers, the other being the variety of self-defense weapons that you've got with Muay Thai. And then if you had to put boxing and Muay Thai together, again, it's a case of context under which rules. Obviously, Muay Thai is going to take it every time. One kick to a boxer's leg and he's going to be on the ground. But yeah, that's just the sort of be all and end all of these sort of comparisons. You have to take into account what is being trained. Boxers simply don't have that. They don't even think to defend their legs. So even if they are moving in and out with a wider stance, you're completely open to leg kicks. Always, it's always going to happen. So yeah, I think comparing the two is like comparing jiu-jitsu to, I don't know, something less effective. But
so if boxing is this like goat of all martial arts, and it's been the highest prize money, it's been the highest following for many years. Why is that? From the aspect of, there's so many other fight formats that are far more dangerous, far more intense.
Boxing is older. Boxing is one of the oldest martial arts in the world. I think the only modern that still exists in a modern day format martial art that's older than boxing is wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just been around for so long. It's been professionalized for longer than any other martial art, maybe bar wrestling. Yeah. I would attribute most of the reasoning behind that just to that very rational.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to challenge you on one thing, in terms of the explanation that you've put forth.
Yeah.
I agree with you in that Muay Thai is definitely a more complete system of fighting and a more complete system of self-defense. And if I had to succinctly summarize what you were saying, it sounded like you were saying that Muay Thai is a very effective martial art for aggression and attacking, and boxing is a very good martial art for defense and defensive evasion and tactics. The one thing I want to challenge you on is range. So again, it's all relative, but as somebody who is currently training in boxing and as somebody who is trained in martial arts that incorporate kicks as well, when we do MMA sparring in the gym, for example, I struggle because my range now is rooted in boxing, which is a much closer range because you only have two weapons, and that's your hands.
Yeah.
So when we transition into MMA sparring or even kickboxing, my range is all wrong because that's what I'm training, that's what I know. And now being in that close or in an area where I thought previously that I was safe in a boxing environment, I'm not, because there's kicks flying across my face.
It makes that red zone much wider.
Yes, the green zones that we spoke about in previous episodes.
Yeah.
It's quite pertinent in that regard, because in a self-defense scenario, if you as a boxer were to come up against somebody who was untrained or maybe a street fighter or anything of that nature, that opponent is going to use kicks. There's nothing that's going to stop them from potentially being able to kick, even if they're not trained and they don't have great technique behind it.
Yeah.
In which case, as a boxer, you're still not really trained to deal with that. And your range as a boxer is only designed, you only train within, the parameters of fighting with your hands.
Yeah. Hitting the torso and the head.
Exactly. And the other thing, quickly, before I finish off on this and hand it back to you, is when you speak about Muay Thai being slightly less technical and much less defensive in what is important in the art, yes, I think there's an element of it within the martial art that is intrinsic to it, of kind of who's tougher or who can kind of take more and then give more, and who's the last man standing.
Yeah.
But don't you also think that a lot of that is down to the fact that the kind of defense and bobbing and weaving and slipping and the evasion tactics that a boxer has for not getting hit simply will never be effective in Muay Thai, because there are 8 weapons that you are at liberty to get hit by at all times. So ducking, bobbing, and weaving, you're going to duck and bob and weave into a kick to your head, or you're going to chow a knee with fucking tomato sauce on it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think that there's a functional reason behind Muay Thai fighters not being so defensive, and it's simply because how the fuck do you defend yourself against 8 possible attacks at any given time?
That's it. It's remember, the defense that a Muay Thai fighter is very different to what a boxer is going to implement. A boxer is going to use their arms, obviously, to block whatever's coming in, and obviously more head movement. That's a very big part of boxing. Muay Thai is lifting your knee up to your elbow, and use that continuous shield for kicking, essentially kicking, and you're using your arms obviously to defend punches coming in, but there's none of this evasive sort of it's a very weird martial art, because it is basically, and also they don't punch much. I mean, Craig, you went to a fight with us in Thailand. They don't punch much in Muay Thai. They do it to create
far
some
more
distance,
effective to kick someone. It hurts.
Yeah,
there's another reason. There's another reason, actually, and this came up when I was doing a little bit of research. In authentic Muay Thai in Thailand, apparently punches don't actually contribute to points during a fight at all, or as much as knees and kicks. So from a point scoring perspective, it's much more heavily weighted towards knees and kicks. So the only way that you actually score points with punches is if you are visibly inflicting shitloads of damage, or you knock the guy out.
Yeah.
So you could actually in an MMA scenario, for example, or even a kickboxing scenario, be winning a fight by punching the fuck out of your opponent. But in authentic Muay Thai in Thailand, you could lose a fight on points by doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get even more points for a takedown. So from the clinch, you take them down with a trip. You get even more points for that. Yeah, it's an interesting martial art. So if anyone hasn't sort of actually watched Muay Thai fights, I highly recommend it. It's some of the most action-filled fights you'll see, and it's a lot of fun. It's not the typical sort of mood. The crowds are loud, and the fighters are they're gritty, and and you're not talking about guys that fight for 20, 30, 40 fights and retire. These guys fight 300, 350, 400 fights easily in their careers.
Yeah,
easy. They 10 times what an MMA fighter would do. So yeah, these are veterans that go out there. If you look at someone like Sanchai, if you guys watched any of his stuff, he's a Muay Thai fighter, dude, and he's still fighting, and he does a lot of exhibitionist type stuff now. They put him up against guys who aren't really on his level, but dude, he does these weird things where he'll plant on one hand, go upside down, basically a one-handed handstand, and kick a guy unconscious. It's like a wheel kick essentially in football or soccer. So it's crazy. Google Sanchai, Saenchai on Instagram. Google on Instagram, but look him up.
It makes you think. Like when we talk about ending up in street fights, everyone always says you get into a fight with a guy that's practicing to be in the UFC or something like that, you're going to get absolutely destroyed. And then, for example, you say you come up against a boxing veteran, the guy's going to just kind of hold you away and make sure, and if you get close enough, he's going to end you. Same thing with some of the other types of martial arts. But imagine coming up against someone who's trained to come at you non-stop with all 8 weapons, and you're on the street. There's no gloves, there's no padding, there's nothing.
Tell me something, Craig. You've been in more fights than me on the street, but
I love when you use the term street. Most of the time it's a pub.
It's a pub, yeah. Usually fighting a bouncer. But tell me something. We're talking about kicks in a street fight. How many times has someone actually tried to kick you in a street fight?
Most of the time, the only time I got kicked was when you're on the ground.
Yeah. So in a stand-up situation, no one's tried to kick me. It's always been punching. That's why I'm thinking boxing is a pretty good martial art to still learn for self-defense.
Yeah. But if you're down and you're in a pub and people are drinking, generally you're going to get kicked, and by multiple people. So I've seen people kick someone just because they're walking past the fight. It's ridiculous, man.
Craig, 2 questions.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you the first one often. Would you still train Muay Thai as your chosen martial art if and when you get into it?
Yes.
Okay. And second question then, right, on this topic.
Yeah.
You've been in, your fair share of fights in your time.
Yeah.
Punched a few nerds in the nose. How, as somebody with no formal martial arts training, how do you fight? Where did that come from? Is it purely instinct? Do you try and do things that you've observed and watched over the years on TV, or like what, without any base, how have these fights gone down?
So as an athlete,
as an athlete in the loosest in the loosest form of the term,
it's honestly, if you've been playing sports your whole life, there is a certain level of anticipation and natural control over your body that you have, I think. And I mean, I've played every sport there is to play. It's rugby, cricket, squash, tennis, whatever it is, I've played it all. And contact sports, non-contact, all of it. And you kind of just know how to control your body. And then you can translate things you watch or see into action. And generally, you've learned that from every sport you've ever played. You started playing at 5 years old. Someone shows you how to bowl a cricket ball, you start repeating it. Someone shows you how to pass a rugby ball, you start repeating it. And the more you watch someone fight, or you're watching it on TV, wherever you're watching it, you naturally get that. But it's the difference in a street fight between the two people who are fighting is purely mindset. A lot of the times, if you're evenly matched to that extent where both of you are kind of average human beings, because you get people who just have no natural strength or ability.
Are you an average human being?
I'm slightly above par. Slightly above par.
Okay, but so tell us, give us a personal experience, give us a recount. How did pick your favorite fight that you've ever been in, and give it to us blow by blow. Spare no detail.
And tell us what you were thinking.
Probably one of my favorites was walking out of a bar in Joburg. And we were on our way out. We were all leaving because there was drama in the bar. And then one of our mates,
as always.
So one of our mates, you guys will know him, Mikey. So he fell behind and we had no idea why. And he falls into the shit. By mistake. He doesn't know what he's doing, but for some reason people always pick on him. And
classic Mikey.
But everyone will always come to his rescue. We love him. So if you see something going down, you kind of got to get involved. And the one of them was, he was literally on the other side of the parking lot, and he's like, "Hey guys," and the guy was literally holding him up against the wall. And I was like, okay. Start just running down the parking lot. I was like, "Hey!" And as the guy turned, he's like, "What?" And we just into him. And as we hit him, literally, the guy gets up and then hit him again, and then he went down. And as he went down, one of our really drunk mates came out, and he just dragged him along the ground, and then got on the ground with him like he was a jiu-jitsu pro. And he just held him. It's like, "Stop punching me!" And he just held him. It was one of my funniest fights. Like, it was probably not one of the best, but for sure one of the funniest to see. Because
it wasn't the most technical, but
from
an entertainment value perspective.
Oh man, because that fight specifically broke out into about 9 guys versus 9 guys. Literally in the parking lot, because all their friends ran out and all our friends came back from the cars. And then we had literally guys beating the shit out of each other. And then you got one of our mates, other Jason, he's a proper farmer strength boy. And he just walked and I don't know why he doesn't hit people, but he literally.
Now you do actually.
No, he's told me why.
He's a bit of a unit.
Yeah,
he doesn't like hurting people. He says he doesn't want to hurt anyone.
So he literally walked through the fight and he grabbed one and threw him there, one and threw him there, and he just walked through and throws people. So that one was super entertaining. But one of my most embarrassing, because I've had the living shit beaten out of me, and that's not embarrassing. You kind of just walk it off. Next day, you're like, "Oh fuck, that was a rough one." But the one was when also Jason was drunk and he took a punch to the face and he didn't even know he got punched. The guy didn't even hit hard enough. And he just carried on talking to the guy. And I saw it. So I ran on the tables in Rusty Hook. And as I jumped to hit this guy, his brother caught me mid-air. And he was about twice the size of his brother. And he was a bodybuilder. And he literally caught me. He's like, "Just sit here and we'll sort it out." And I was like, "Okay." It's okay. I'll calm down.
Rusty Hook is a classy.
Sobered you up. Sobered you up.
Oh man, I've been in one with you at Rusty Hook as well, where we stopped your BMW for him.
I remember that. Have you ever come up against anyone in a street bar fight or any kind of self-defense scenario that is trained in martial arts, or that you could perceive or see was trained in some kind of martial art?
Only once, and he was a boxer, and he beat the shit out of me. Like I said, if you're
here for the martial artists,
as an inexperienced fighter, I still have the ability to come in and have a basic level of anticipation, come in at certain speed. And I'm always going to come in fast because that's where your advantage lies. If you have no experience, like try get him to the ground and get on top. But this guy, as a fighter like that, his anticipation was ridiculous. Anything I did, he had an answer for, or he just moved out the way. Like he just knew how to move.
Why didn't you kick him?
Because the one sport I was never good at was football.
That's what I'm saying. No one thinks about kicking in a street fight.
No, you just don't. Yeah, and you're always going to get those absolute dickheads out there who say they've never had trained in a ring ever in their life or the boxing bag, and they're like, dude, you must see, I just see red, I'll absolutely kill anyone. Put a boxer in front of me who knows how to think in that situation, and he absolutely destroys you every time.
Craig, I just want to challenge one point in there. There's also been another time when you've come up against a boxer in the fight. Do you remember that? Craig, please tell us about that one as well.
So Jay and I had a little.
That's the one he was talking about, Jay.
So
it's just how I remember it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to boxing rules, Jay beats me on points, but he won't knock me down. You didn't even, I was out of breath before we even started.
Hey, to be fair, that was before I trained in boxing, but yeah.
But Jay was substantially fitter than me, first of all, and I was fat. So
there's a photo on the Strictly Fighters website. Go to the About Us page. It's there. It's there.
That's where it's from. You're right.
Yeah.
It's one of his biopics.
That was literally that fight, and Jay probably beat me on points purely because he probably landed a few more, but I think both of us were pretty friggin' gassed, man.
Craig, I ran rings around you so fast your head was spinning, man.
I couldn't breathe.
He beats himself.
I was like, even the headgear was like, I can't breathe in this. Just take it off.
Quick side story before we have to move on. Craig is working towards a new bio picture. He wasn't happy with the ones that we chose, so stand by for that. Craig, do you want to give us a timeline?
I said by the end of June, and there's a new Muay Thai gym that just opened around the corner from me, so maybe it's time.
So you keep saying.
Yeah. So
he keeps promising. I'm not going to believe it until I see it.
All right, let's move on, boys. Yeah, here's a fun one. UFC 260 review. I'm going to sum it up for you in 3 quick, short phrases, and then I'm going to pass the ball over to you. Sugar Shaun O'Malley to face the bantamweight legend Dominic Cruz next after his win. Tyron Woodley's done and needs to go back to rapping. And Stipe Miocic definitely deserves an instant rematch, but will probably not get one. The floor is yours.
Man. I had to watch that match, that fight between Ngannou and Miocic again. Dude, Ngannou was a different fighter this time. He was controlling the center of the ring. He was the one dominating on the ground. I mean, he was just all over Miocic. I don't think he had an answer for him this time. I think Miocic maybe underestimated him. But Ngannou came to fight, dude. He came to win. That short hook of his that just took Miocic. Oh, dude, that was beautiful. That was beautiful, beautiful martial arts.
Classic boxing.
Man, he's a different fighter.
Yeah, I mean, but if you look at even the body shape from his first fight with Stannis versus now, the guy is shredded. Like he's become
fight with who?
Miocic. What do you want to call him? I don't know.
No one knows what it means.
No.
It's the people going.
Miocic.
Miocic.
Okay, there we go. Fine. Miocic, his first fight with Miocic, you can actually see the body difference. He came in as a machine this time around, and I don't know if Miocic actually underestimated him or was genuinely scared.
I think so.
He came in big, man. He was what, 20 pounds over what Miocic was. He was a machine when he came in there, and Miocic wasn't even in that fight. He was dominated throughout.
Ngannou just he did. Man,
I don't think it was a case of him being scared or even underestimating him. I think it was simply a case of Francis Ngannou is putting the work to become a well-rounded mixed martial artist, and his size and his power and his strength paired with his holistic mastery now of the game was simply too much. He was the better fighter.
Yeah, fair enough.
Do you think having Usman in the corner made a difference?
Yeah, especially from an inspiration perspective.
Did you see at the end, man?
African
Oh
brothers.
man, that got me.
Yeah, man.
That got me teary-eyed.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that really was quite an interesting one, because he brought a lot of the training concepts that he did to get where he is, and a lot of the ground game and stuff, probably a few stomps here and there. But yeah, I think that played a big role in the aspiration of where he wants to go. And I think he wants to stay there, man. Like fully, he's loving where he is now.
That was a conscientious decision on Ngannou's part, huh? So that's a really smart move, right?
Mm.
A lot of, he's not just a fighter who goes into the octagon to smash people anymore.
Yeah.
He's, you know what I mean? He's
He's
a
thinking,
conscientious
He's
thinking
thinking.
mixed martial artist. And he had the foresight to go, hey, let me bring Usman into my camp. From an inspiration perspective, my African brother, the first African champion in the UFC, an incredible wrestler, which is an area of my game that I would like to shore up. You know what I mean? Like all of these things factored into a decision-making process that led to some kind of heightened performance, however small or however big, that helped him to get the job done.
Dude, it wasn't even small things. He just dominated, man. He just looked like he just wanted that fight and he wanted to win it, and he was gonna win it. Like from the first round, like I mean, it didn't last very long, but I mean, from the beginning of the fight, Ngannou was just there. He was in Miocic's face, pushing him against the edge of the outside of the octagon. Man, yeah, it was a beautiful
And
fight.
yet he was measured.
Yeah,
he knew what he was doing at
very,
every
very,
point.
very. And he was moving. Did you on the ground? Holy shit! For a big guy like that, moving that quickly around a guy who's dominated him on the ground the last time, man.
He stuffed that takedown and almost in the same breath took his back.
Yeah. That's insane. Yeah, I'm excited to see how long he stays up there.
Yeah.
I'm convinced it's going to be a while.
We'll talk about that soon.
Touch on that, because for me, Stipe Miocic is the best heavyweight that's ever competed in the UFC. He's from a record perspective. He's been a phenomenal champion. He definitely deserves an instant rematch, right? The trilogy should happen. He gave Francis a rematch. It was an instant. He made him wait, but regardless, but it doesn't. That's not even on the cards for some reason. There's two fights that people are talking about.
But wait, before you move on to those fights, what do you think the reason is for the no rematch? Because do you think, I don't think it's Ngannou saying no. Do you think it's purely
Ngannou said in his post-fight presser that he doesn't necessarily feel the need to beat Stipe again to validate his championship status. But if the UFC wants him to, and because of the fact that there's a trilogy, he's completely open to it. I think it's more a case of he wants to stay active and fight again soon. And Stipe I think Stipe, from that fucking getting knocked the fuck out.
Yeah, and just before that he got knocked down. Yeah.
He's out for 2 months on concussion watch. So he's not even going to be able to train for the next 6 to 8 weeks. So I think it's more a case of Stipe is kind of going to go now and reassess where he is and what he wants to do next. But they're not going to wait for that.
Yeah, for sure. No, they need to capitalize on what Ngannou's just done. And
the two fights are, number one, with the Black Beast, Derek Lewis. Incidentally, has beaten Francis.
Yeah, that's the weird one, right?
In a very, very weird, very cagey decision.
Yeah.
But the second
wasn't that a pretty boring fight as well?
Very.
God damn, dude, I really did not enjoy that. I was like, you expected two gorillas like fucking each other up. It's just like they were both too scared to do anything.
But that was the fight after Francis had first lost to Stipe. And I think he was in a very weird space around, his style that got him to that point of just going and absolutely mashing people's faces had failed.
Yeah.
So I think he swung way too far towards the other end of the spectrum and was incredibly measured and scared to engage.
Yeah.
For fear of repeating the same mistakes.
Yeah. I think he's found a good balance now, man. I think he's really found a good balance.
Yeah.
Here's the question.
Is that so great to watch?
Is that balance good enough to beat who many people consider to be the legit GOAT of MMA, Jon Bones Jones.
Man.
That I know there's massive back and forth, and Jones has been having to go at Dana, has been having to go at the UFC, Dana's having to go at him, but this it simply has to happen.
Yeah.
It has to happen. This is the super fight of 2021.
He hasn't bulked for
bigger
nothing.
fight.
He hasn't gotten big for nothing. It has to happen.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I think Ngannou takes that fight.
Ooh, that is a big call, Craig.
Reason being, Ngannou throws that weight around every day. That's where he fights. That's the weight he fights at. And I mean, you saw how fast he is now with that weight on him. If you see the training videos of
compared
Jones,
to Jon Jones, though,
Jones is not moving nearly as swiftly as he is. If you watch the new training videos I mean, he's a huge unit now.
Yeah,
but he's not used to carrying that around. He's not used to fighting with that long term.
You reckon he'll gas that?
First of all, he might gas, but I think, I mean, but Jones wants to take Ngannou into deep waters, but that gives Ngannou 5 rounds to land one. That for me, I think Ngannou has to land one against anyone. If he lands one clean shot, and we saw him do it with a left hook, a short left hook against one of the best fighters in the heavyweight division of all time, and he ended him with a short left hook.
Yeah, let's not discount that. Miocic is almost at Jones's level as far as legend status, dude. You know what I mean? If not,
maybe in his division.
Division. But I don't know, man. Jones isn't used to getting hit by guys like Ngannou. He's a light heavyweight. You know what I mean? I think Ngannou is a different thing altogether, dude.
It's a different beast.
Ngannou hit him?
That's the question. But Ngannou is a different fighter. It's not all about the punches now. Because remember, look at what he was doing to Miocic. He was dominating him on the ground. And when a heavy guy like that, solid muscle, dude, that is solid muscle, is on top of you or even trying to get you to the ground, what are you going to do? You're a twig. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I think are we not missing a trick here from the other angle, saying, holy fuck, guys, Jon Jones is going to be a heavyweight.
Dude.
Yeah.
Like the most, barring Francis, the other most dangerous man on the planet that has never been beaten is now going up to fucking heavyweight.
Yeah.
One of the fastest, cleverest, most technical mixed martial artists that has ever lived, if not that has ever lived, is going to be a fucking heavyweight. It's going to be coming in at the same kind of weight as these monsters.
No, I that is insanely exciting because I actually love Jones and I rate him as one of the GOATs, but I just think that if someone like Ngannou can walk over the current legend of the heavyweight
in a round in 1 minute,
he literally walked over him. It wasn't even a contest. So you've got someone coming up, trying a new division. He's being hit with new kind of power, and he's throwing around new weight. I just don't think that you go up against that as your first.
Okay, so I know it's very early. I know the fight hasn't been made, but let's get super quick 2-second predictions. Craig, who wins that fight if it happens?
Ngannou wins it, but it doesn't make him a GOAT.
Shaun?
Ngannou. I'll take Ngannou.
I'm definitely going to go with Bones on this one.
Okay.
And that leads me into the meat of this episode. And it's one that we've been putting off for a while, but we had to get to it at some stage, boys. Who is the greatest mixed martial artist of all time? Now, I'm going to set this up a little bit for us and help us to categorize this before I pass the hot potato over to you guys. So what I see in the UFC especially is this GOAT status gets thrown around like a dead lamb in a fucking gorilla's den. Okay, I get that the sport is still ridiculously young.
Mm.
And so I guess you can kind of forgive them for that. But I hear the greatest of all time at least 6 times in every UFC card that ever gets put on. Right? The term has lost its meaning, it's lost its power, it's lost its sanctity because it's so ubiquitous in their everyday speak. Having said that, there's no the reason this is such an empty debate really is because no one's ever really been able to classify and categorize how do we judge who the greatest of all time is. So what I want to do is break it down into some categories quickly. I want to talk about the greatest champion in MMA. By virtue of that, I mean the UFC. For the purposes of this argument, we will take the UFC as the premier promotion in the sport, and by virtue of that, we agree that the top fighters in the world are fighting in the UFC. So that's part of our context. So I want to chat a little bit about the greatest champions, which is quantifiable, which we can quantifiably state, hey, by virtue of this, and this, he is the greatest champion, or she is the greatest champion, etc., etc. And then use that as a springboard for us to talk about the greatest of all time and whatever that entails, what we think that entails. Okay, so as of today, if we talk about the greatest champion in UFC history, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 names here, and I'll tell you why. The first one is Jon Jones, at the current pound for pound number 1 fighter, mixed martial artist in the world. His record is 26-1-0, which means that he has 26 wins, 1 loss, no draws, and 1 no contest. Asterisk, he lost via disqualification. So
that's very debatable as well, whether or not he should have been.
Technically, he's never been beaten in an octagon. Okay.
Isn't he still trying to reverse that disqualification?
Yeah.
That was against DC, that he was disqualified. The first DC.
No, that was overturned because he was convicted on
drug
charges.
Okay, I remember
and
now.
Doping. So 26-1, 26 victories, in essence, no losses. Right? In essence, he's never been beaten. And remember that because it's going to play a pivotal role. The next most valuable stat for me is that he has 14 wins in UFC title fights. That's the most ever. So he's the winningest champion in UFC history. He also has 11 title defenses. Okay. Officially, the record books state 10 because one of those was struck from the record for being overturned because of his doping and drug conviction.
That's the DC one.
But he has 10 title defenses, which is not the most. So we'll get to that. He also has the longest unbeaten streak in UFC history. He went 18 fights unbeaten, and he was the youngest champ that has ever existed in the UFC. We can all definitely agree that he's the best light heavyweight that's ever lived.
Of course.
The other asterisks to his name is that he has had 4 drug testing and doping convictions and issues against his name. For a lot of people, that puts a big blight on his record. Second one, GSP, George St. Pierre.
Didn't he also hit a pregnant woman in a car?
Yes.
No,
he didn't hit her. He hit her with the car.
That's what I'm talking about. He drove into her.
And then ran away and then fled the scene.
So what's worse, hitting her with a car or just hitting her?
I've purposefully kept that out because I'm trying to keep this within the confines of Okay, GSP, George St. Pierre.
Of course. I was going to ask, did you include him on your list? Because if you didn't.
The gentleman of UFC.
A record of 26-2, 26 wins, 2 losses. 13 wins in UFC title fights, the second most behind Jon Jones. 9 title defenses, a 2-division champ, and we can all agree unequivocally the best welterweight that ever lived. Okay? Mighty Mouse Demetrius Johnson. Okay. 27 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw. 12 wins in UFC title fights, so the third most behind Jones and GSP. He is tied with Jon Jones on 11 consecutive title defenses. However, technically, he has the most because Jones, one of them has been struck, so he has 10. Right, so he has the most title defenses in UFC history, and we can all agree that he was the best flyweight that's ever lived. And the last one is Anderson Spider Silva, with a record of 34 wins, 11 losses, no draws, and 1 no contest. 11 wins in UFC title fights, which is the 4th most behind the 3 men that we've just mentioned, and the 2nd most consecutive title defenses in UFC history with 10. He also has the longest win streak in UFC history. He won 16 fights in a row. And we can all agree that he is the best middleweight in UFC history.
And is he the only one in that list that's a UFC Hall of Famer, if I'm not mistaken?
GSP is also a Hall of Famer.
Okay.
Yeah. The other guys are still active.
GSP retired champion, yeah?
Yeah, so GSP retired as a champion of the welterweight division, and then he came back 4 years later to beat Michael Bisping and win the middleweight title as well.
So you're not so you're not even going to throw in a little Khabib there for Shaun to give
Glad
him
you
a
asked, Craig. I've prepared something.
Monologue.
Let me tell you why, and this will be the last thing that I say on this before I hand it back to you guys. I don't consider Khabib to be in the echelon of these greats, right? By record, sure, right? 29-0. One of the only elite level MMA fighters to go unbeaten throughout their career and in the UFC. So by virtue of his record, okay, he's probably got the best record in mixed martial arts. However, Khabib only had 13 fights in the UFC. Right, that's less than the amount of title fights that Jon Jones has won. Jon Jones has won, and by my count, about 7 of those were top opponents. Yeah, right. The rest of them, he's been fighting fucking Chechen slaves in the tundra his whole life.
Bears.
And he only had, he only had, that doesn't count. So 13 fights in the UFC. He only has 3 title defenses. I think we can all agree that he is the best lightweight. The only argument for him to be in this echelon, for me, is dominance. The way that he dominated everyone he ever fought.
Yeah, apparently he's only ever lost 1 round, right?
If that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's, this is the thing. What makes a great? What makes the greatest of all time?
Yeah.
So now for me, the numbers don't lie. They don't ever tell the full story, but they also don't lie. Jon Jones is the greatest champion that has ever been in the UFC. How much of that translates into the greatest of all time?
Yeah. So I'll agree. I mean, there's no argument that Jon Jones is, like you said, but I would consider GSP to be the GOAT.
Tell us why.
I think it's difficult. He's the most all-round fighter, honestly. Okay, between him and Mighty Mouse, I'm the biggest fan of both of those guys. But GSP, if he fought Khabib, I think would dominate. That's just how I believe. And I agree with you. I don't even know if Khabib belongs in that list because of the caliber of fighters that he fought. He didn't fight the amount of top tier fighters that GSP, Jon Jones, Mighty Mouse fought. So yeah, like you say, he's extremely dominant, and I would have loved to have seen him early on in his career get into the UFC and see what he could do. But he is extremely dominant, and but he's not there. He's not at the top. I would consider GSP at the top. Jiu-Jitsu, he's invincible, and he's a karate guy as well. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know why. But it's difficult to say too. Like you said, the numbers don't lie, but it also doesn't tell the whole story. But I don't know what part of GSP's story tells me, in my mind, that he's the GOAT. I think he's just such a good guy, man. He's the most genuine guy. He also believes in weird shit. He believes in aliens. You know what I mean?
Okay, but if you can, and if you agree with me here, that's a personal characteristic, and yes, it's part of being a great champion, and part of being the greatest in a sport is an athlete's character and how they carry themselves and the whole furore around them in their lives.
Mm.
But is this not more of a personal characteristic that's tainting your objective opinion?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. I mean, if I'm thinking about a martial artist, I'm going to be on the good guy's side, not the guy who's knocked over a pregnant woman and drove away.
yeah,
Are you one of those people? Are you one of those people who think that Daniel-san was the good guy in the Karate Kid?
So here's my question: is you cannot have an objective opinion of who the GOAT is, because there is no criteria to determine a GOAT. So there is no objective opinion. So I agree with Shaun that GSP is the current GOAT because of where he stands, but Jon Jones will be, because Jon Jones is still active. So he still has time to stretch that record, man. He will keep stretching it.
Craig, if Jon Jones beats Francis Ngannou, what are you saying? Does that solidify his status?
Yes, then he's the GOAT, because then he jumped up a weight class, and he beat literally the beast of heavyweight, the guy who people are now scared of him. Literally, the guy hits the, and you said that he hits like being hit by a Ford at 60 km an hour. Did you?
Wrong.
You were wrong. It's like getting hit by a Ford Escort at full speed.
Full speed.
Literally, because that's how much horsepower.
I was just trying to soften the blow, bro. Do you know what I mean?
That is incomprehensible as a human being who hasn't been in a ring with a heavyweight. You can't think of how hard that actually hit.
He'll knock you off your feet. He'll turn you horizontal, and then you'll fall.
Yeah, man.
That's it. Yeah,
He'll knock you off the flat side of the earth,
dude. Yeah, but if Jones beats Ngannou, I mean, he's hands down as far as martial art, as far as a fighter status goes. Yeah. Without a doubt, that's cements it, because then he's two division. You know what I mean? As well, same as GSP.
He's two division, but he's also proved that he can go up. There's a difference between going up and coming down, and that's the biggest thing that takes Khabib out of the books for me completely. He always dropped from his walking around weight 2 divisions to go fight.
Most people do that.
Yeah, but he never ever just went one. He never went up a division and be like, okay, let me fight here. It's only 10 pounds that I have to lose to get there. Yeah. And he never thought of just fighting there. I'm not saying he has to fight at his walking around weight, but at least try one above. And I mean, Conor did it and he won it.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So Shaun, you're saying GSP.
I'm saying GSP.
In one sentence or one sentiment, why?
He's the gentleman martial artist. He'll smile at you and still fuck you up.
Okay.
Let me just clarify. To me, martial arts is about more than how good you are at fucking someone up. Because you could be a gangster and you could fuck someone up. It doesn't make you good. It doesn't make you a goat. There's a martial artist. Going back to the root of what a martial artist is, you've got a responsibility. If you can kill someone, you've got a responsibility as a human being to be a good person.
Oh, now he wants to get traditional.
I respect the tradition. I respect the tradition.
100%.
But I also like the sentiment of knowing you're the best. So, for example, you're talking about a footballer like Cristiano Ronaldo. You ask him who's the best. I'm the best. And when people ask GSP, are you going to come out of retirement? Yeah, there we go. Cristiano. They asked GSP, are you going to come out and show Usman what it's all about? And he's like, I've got nothing to prove to beat him. Like, I am who I am.
Yeah, but dude, there's a much deeper thing behind that. He was basically saying, like, he's been active now for another 5 years. So he's saying to go back into like a 4-month training camp.
Yeah.
To beat Usman didn't appeal to him. It just wasn't something that motivated him to now completely upend and change his whole life. And not see his family and not chow fucking pizzas or whatever it is that they do in French Canada for like half a year, just to try and come back and prove something again that he's done 13 times.
Exactly.
And I think if he came out of retirement and went through a 4-month camp, I think he would beat Usman.
No, let me explain something to you. This guy never stops training. GSP would be ready for a fight tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes, but not at a UFC.
Not at a
title
UFC.
fight level.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
But he still is. He's still.
No, he's a
active.
lifelong martial artist.
Yeah, he's still very, very
Mm.
active. Yeah. Anyway.
Craig, what are you saying?
Yes, for me it's GSP purely because he, once again, there's no asterisk on him. There is no asterisk on GSP's record.
Touche.
And I mean,
Other than
Mhm.
the 2 losses.
Yeah, okay, but that's not an
Well,
asterisk.
what is a loss
And
to a
this
martial
and
artist?
this is, listen,
Well, this
I'm
is-
tired of that now, because now people are saying that.
Come at me, bro.
People are saying that Israel is out of the books. He will never be a GOAT. He's just out of it now because he's taken a loss. Why does a loss determine the fact that you can never be a GOAT? Just because
Well,
you
who
have a loss in
knows?
your record?
That's what we're trying to. That's what we're trying to figure
But that's
out. But I'm
exactly.
honestly-
I don't believe
I'm-
that is a determining fact at all.
I'm playing devil's advocate for you because when it comes down to fine margins, where
Mm.
we're talking about 2 champions, for example, who have pretty similar records in terms of amount of wins in UFC title fights and amount of title defenses, then you have to look for differentiators. You have to look for degrees of separation, however large or small that they may be. And the plain simple fact of the matter is that Jon Jones technically has never been beaten. GSP has lost 2 fights.
And I
That's all I'm
love
saying.
Jon Jones, and I respect that record, but dude, I live online now trying to explore the UFC world and understand what the fans think and the guys who actually dig deep into these things. And it's you cannot prove that this guy has that doping record could extend into things where he wasn't caught. And I would like to believe that it doesn't, but you can't prove that it doesn't. He's put that asterisk on his own name, and that hurts, man. That it sucks because from a technical ability point of view, I think he is the GOAT. I don't think there is anyone more talented in the martial arts world than he is, but he has screwed himself over.
That's fair.
And
That's
that
a fair
sucks,
point.
man.
Let's do it this way. Fun.
Fun.
having fun.
We're having fun.
Let's put a pound for pound spin on it.
Okay.
Pound for pound, if these fighters had to be the same size, the same weight between Jon Jones, GSP, Demetrius Johnson, and Anderson Silva, who would come out in a Grand Prix? Who would be the last man standing?
Demetrius Johnson is one of my favorite fighters of all time.
Yeah.
Fighters.
Fighters.
Ghostbuster.
Dude, watching him fight was something special to see. And it literally broke my heart when that dickhead beat him.
Me too.
And when we swapped him for fucking
This one really gets to
one hit
Shaun.
wonder. Jeez. Yeah, it's I would take.
Hey,
I
dude,
would take.
Ben Askren's about to represent the world of MMA.
I love him for how cringy he is.
Pound for pound, I don't know why, but I love Demetrius Johnson. I just think Mighty Mouse is incredible to watch. He's such a performer, man.
He suplexed the guy into an armbar.
Yeah. Exactly.
Come on.
That's technical
mixed
ability.
martial arts.
Yes.
There you go.
That technical ability is incredible. And something we didn't touch on earlier is how far Woodley has fallen from grace. The man who could have been a GOAT. The man who they thought, when he was defending his own title, was fighting at half speed. And
Dope rapper though.
yeah, but he's a dope rapper, bro.
At least he's got that. He's got a trade to fall back on.
it's literally just fallen from grace, and he was my favorite. And that's
He's
just
done,
gone
eh?
to
He's done. Dana even said they asked him at the post-fight presser, and he was like, Tone's been he's been a great fighter. I loved what I saw in there tonight. He tried to bring the old one back, but he's 30, 36, 38 years old. He's on a 4-fight loss streak. He's like, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, it's time to become Bellator champion.
Natural career progression of mixed martial artists.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it goes downhill. Mixed martial arts doesn't go the other way around. You end up in the backyard fights.
Okay, so Craig, who wins the Grand Prix? Who's last man standing? You saying Mighty Mouse?
Yeah, I think Mighty Mouse is the pound for pound
greatest of all time. Shaun?
Dude, and if I say that, you're going to be like, we've agreed on 3 different things tonight.
That's
it's not
true.
good. I would say Mighty Mouse,
Mm.
mostly because he's so dynamic. Dude, he's good at every part of the game. I would say Mighty Mouse, in all honesty. No, I don't know. What do you think?
I know it's pound for pound, but it doesn't paint a pretty picture when you think about the fact that we're saying Mighty Mouse would beat Jon Jones, but he lost to Henry fucking Cejudo.
Yeah. True story.
Yeah,
So I'll put a cork in it. My greatest of all time is Jon Jones. For me, the reason behind that is that I think he's technically the most talented mixed martial artist that I've ever watched. And his record is the greatest. The numbers don't lie, and for me, what you see when you watch, that doesn't lie for me either. If I had to orchestrate a hypothetical pound for pound Grand Prix in my mind, I'm busy simulating it as we speak, like a UFC game engine. I would have to say that Jon Jones fights Demetrius Johnson in the final, but still comes out on top.
Okay. You were the one who put me on to Mighty Mouse, yeah? When we were living together, you forced me to watch him, and then I became a huge
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
All right.
Nice one, boys. Okay, so this is massive, right? This is such a huge debate. We could literally sit here and carry on talking about this for the next 6 hours.
And we will. As new fighters come up, we're going to be like, wait a second.
100%. But we're gonna cap it there for now. What we definitely want to do is hear people's thoughts. I mean, this is a debate that will rage for the rest of all of our natural lives, and then some. But for now, hit us with your thoughts. Let us know who's an idiot, who's a champion, and I'm talking about between us three. And let's chat shit.
I know. Let's say what's the thing that Jay hates us saying? Share, like, subscribe.
Yeah,
do that.
But guys, share. Drop a like and then subscribe. But what you can also do is click the bell. There's a bell there that notifies you when we drop this shit.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. And you know why? Because it helps the algorithm. And when it helps the algorithm, it helps us.
You sound like Tyron Woodley.
Oh, bro, but he's a dope rapper, so it's okay.
All right, we're going to finish it off with Celebrity Deathmatch, boys.
Yeah.
I've got them in the tournament draw.
Yeah, Tom Cruise versus Cameron Diaz. Let's do it.
Check the button.
Cameron Diaz.
3, 2, 1. We have Shaquille O'Neal.
Yes, us.
Big Shaq.
Shaquille O'Neal. There we go. Sorted.
Versus Tommy Lee.
Weapons or no weapons?
Hold on. There's two scenarios. Number one is as is.
Shaq. You just has to smack him once.
Mate, Shaun, have you ever seen Jay? I know you've seen it when we worked at Nike. The image of Shaq's shoe that's been framed or encased at Nike headquarters. It's literally this big. Imagine that guy kicked you. He'd kick you into yesterday.
They use a whole cow's leather on him.
He should kick in a street fight.
Yeah, exactly. You're literally using half a cow to make that guy's shoes.
Okay, so he kicks Tommy Lee back to Britney Spears.
Yes, 100%.
He just gets slap him back to Britney.
Okay, pound for pound. If Shaquille O'Neal and Tommy Lee were the same size and the same weight.
What is Tommy Lee's fight background?
He's not. He's a drummer.
No, everyone on this list has some fight background.
Yeah, he does.
So, does Shaq have a fight background?
He does jiu-jitsu, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Oh, no, you'll kill him.
He does jiu-jitsu. Imagine Shaq lying on you.
No, but no amount of shrimping or crimping or anything is going to help.
Jeez, dude. Yeah, I know your stuff.
Okay,
what
so
do you think,
Shaquille is a 6th degree black belt in karate.
Oh, no, that's not doing much.
Read our latest blog post by Jay. You tell us what you think.
As long as you got to take your shirt off and fight in the real arena.
Tommy Lee, I'm struggling to find actually. It just says he's a highly skilled martial arts instructor.
Oh, so he did an online course so he could run some classes at the gym down the road. So so listen, if Shaq does jiu-jitsu, there's not many celebrities I would put against him then, because my God, he's big, dude. The guy removed his front seat out of a Hummer.
He loves MMA as well.
Yeah.
He's often at the
Yeah.
cards and
But do you know how big a Hummer is? He removed the front seat out of a Hummer so he could drive it.
He's a
Shaq
big man. He's a
about-
big individual.
what about Shaq versus Francis? He dwarfs Francis.
Yeah, dude. But
in
Francis would have to
size,
reach up to punch him.
Yeah,
Imagine.
Literally.
Oh, for sure. But if it was pound for pound, if Francis.
No, Francis. I'm just messing around. All right, boys.
right.
Next week, a little bit of exciting news. We will have a guest on the show.
Our first guest.
There's
How
no,
cool is that?
There's no guarantee that he's any better looking than us.
No, he won't be.
Yeah, I suppose that's it. There's a guarantee that he won't be better looking than us, but he will be more intelligent. So tune in to hear what he has to say.
Right, we'll leave it there. I'm not going to say any more about it.
Yeah.
Boys, thanks for the time. Another episode of the Strictly Fighters podcast in the bag. Until
Nice one,
next
boys.
week, all the blessings, and may the Ninja Turtles fight the Power Rangers in your dreams.
Yes.